Introducing Mattia Bianucci from Italy. Mattia, you're a personal trainer or coach. Can you tell us about your experience and what you've been doing with your clients?
All right, I am a personal trainer from northern Italy. I operate in northwest Italy in a little town called Alessandria, which is in the middle of Turin and Milan. I operate as a national personal trainer. I follow clients at club levels. I coach youngsters age 9, 11, and I do my best to apply the Arthur Lydiard principles even with youngsters. I train and coach people from all abilities, all levels, with a balanced approach, applying progression and mostly moderation in the physiology, the principles of physiology and training. I use a Lydiard schedule, basically from the first books from the 70s, just like running the Lydiard way. And so far, I've been achieved remarkable success following the schedule verbatim or literally, customizing them a little bit. That's my coaching method, based on physiology mostly, and based on the proved principles of Arthur Lydiard. I've been coaching this way for 3 years and a half now, with remarkable success.
What are your most successful events that you coach athletes for?
Just recently, I coached a woman, 61 years of age, for the Athens Marathon. She finished first Italian women among 200 participants with a time of 3 hours and 17 minutes out of a Lydiard schedule. 3 months of training, 7 days a week of training, a balanced training. She had some physical issues. It was a success for the both of us, considering her age, not too old, but even not too young to approach a marathon. A dose of Sunday long session, we managed to do pretty well.
How long were her longest sessions?
2 hours and 30 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes over undulating course, where I suggested to her to focus on distance and not on speed, to stay relaxed, to focus on good posture, good technique for the entire duration, for the entire length of the training. Talking about relaxation, I do believe it's the most important thing to focus on training, even in interval training, repetition training, structure fartlek training. Relaxation is key. I would better say relaxation is king. That's one of the principles on which I based my entire coaching system, my entire coaching method. Here I have your book, Champions Are Everywhere, the schedules, which I found a very interesting reading and a good implementation in the knowledge about how to structure a coaching schedule. And I guess it is of good value because it implements the basic Lydiard foundation. But since you are based in Australia, there is a little bit of Pat Clohessy style in it, which is we can see that in the structure of the week.
Yeah.
With long runs and all the other factors like interval training, acceleration run, tempo runs, and structure fartlek, all in, we can call them weekly blocks or 10 days of training blocks, which it's a good compromise between periodized and not periodized way of training, because this is also a question that many clients ask me. Do you suggest periodized or not periodized training? And I also answer, it depends. It depends on the goals. It depends on which targeted race you're aiming to, and a specific phase of the year. Here in Italy, we have running calendars which are full of races all year round. There is never time to get back to the basis of the pyramid and start back from, for example, 6-month training of long, slow distance running, then focusing on uphill running, short bouts of speed, then moving on a little bit of track training. So we can't follow this pyramid over a longer period of time. We have to concentrate this concept over, let's say, 6 days of training, 8 days of training, maximum of 10 days of training, and move on this cycle over and over again. Inside this cycle, we can introduce developmental races, which that must be approached, and I always say this to my coaching clients: developmental races must be approached as time trials, not so different than time trial, or 7/8 of effort toward the targeted race. And that's the way not to bring down the athletic condition, and to continue to improve whilst also keeping on racing and training. That's there's an interesting schedule from the 1978 running the Lydiard way, which is called Continuation of Training and Racing, which maybe there are 2 or 3 races in a week. Between races, we just do short bouts, sharpeners, easy fartleks, and we keep on going on this way over and over again during a period of 3 months of racing. And I found out that this is the good way to manage racing and to keep fresh, and also continuing on improving and not bring the condition down, provided an aerobic base, a solid aerobic base has been established over the years, over the months. And this is a condition that must be sounded. This must be a sound condition to on which everything that comes later must be based on. And that's basically my approach of training.
So I'm going to ask you, when you start a client, say, running, or do you handle cyclists or triathletes as well?
I do handle triathletes and people interested in multi-sport activities, especially people of 60 to 70 years of age, which tend to prefer easy activity, easy sport. Here in Europe, we have a brand new sport which is called Nordic walking, Nordic walking is a dryland simulation of cross-country skiing, which puts emphasis on pushing hard with the shoulders, with the arms. It's also a core stability training, and it's very suitable for older people. But we try to use these protocols as a warm-up and as a cool down for coaching clients who fear to injure themselves after hours and hours of running on roads, on hard surfaces. We suggest to, after training, move on grass and differentiate the training with other activities. I mentioned Nordic walking, but it could also be rowing, indoor rowing, which is a total body workout, especially as far as the legs are concerned, because in rowing we also use the same muscles involved in running, but in a different way. There's no impact, although even in rowing and the multi-sport activities, we must focus on the proper technique in the sport, because rowing it can be pretty hard on the lower back, so we must pay attention to that zone and applying the right technique from the beginning. Technique for me is the most important thing in all sports. I do believe it's even more important than the aerobic foundation itself. A novice who starts a training program should focus at least for 1 month, 1 month and a half, just on technique. When you acquire the right technique, then the client moves up on the pyramid and starts the aerobic phase, the strengthening phase, the anaerobic phase, and so on and so forth. But technique stays right behind the pyramid. It's the foundational, even more important than the building base of the aerobic foundation. And that's how I train multi-sport trainers, multi-sport men and women, and we can achieve a great success in this way.
Do you supervise their sessions personally?
Yeah, I train myself with the clients. I stay right next to them, and I practice the same workout in all the scheduled training sessions. So I am an athlete myself, so my style is to train with every client that I follow, and I do everything my clients do, because first I practice on myself. This is very much even Lydiard did that, especially over long distances, and that's a style. I made that style mine. I took the essence and made it right for myself.
So you've adapted the whole Lydiard ethos or methodology to Mattia Bianucci's personality.
Yes, that's how I did. But I can say my style. I also appreciate very much the not periodized way of training used in Australia, where you are, and I created a sort of blend between we can call them schools or approach, because the Australian way it's a customized Lydiard, but the structure remains the same. I do appreciate athletes like Moneghetti or Di Castella, and the overall works, as far as I'm concerned, it works pretty well on me. It works, and it works very, very well in a calendar full of overall races, all year-round races, and that's pretty much my style. I created a personalized style between the two schools of thinking and approaching of running.
I'll make a distinction here that the original Lydiard style is periodized and probably, in my opinion, is absolutely the most effective way to peak for a single event on a single day.
Yes.
But the Clohessy approach can be used by any athlete over a long period of time, because on a certain day they know exactly the type of session they'll be doing and they can adapt it to themselves. So a few weeks ago I was talking with a guy called Damien Cook, and Damien got himself, just by enjoying his running with the Clohessy pack, down to a time of 2 hours 20 and bits for a marathon, and he ran 2 hours 21 for a marathon on about 6 occasions. But he started off as a fun runner a few years before that, and he just enjoyed the running and enjoyed sort of running with the Melbourne pack runners. A lot of them were elite or approaching elite levels. He'd sort of hang off the back because all of their long, easy runs were very long and very easy. And so he was able to hang off the back, and after a few years of this, he was not being dropped anymore. And he came to the conclusion that if he was able to run with these guys on the longer runs and even in the hills, then he should be able to race with them. And so he became the accidental international marathoner. And we've adapted that sort of approach, that template approach, to the schoolboy racing calendar, because the approach we've developed with the schoolboys is just a bit of everything, because that's the variety they need, but heavily aerobic. So if you want to maintain shape and improve constantly, all that you really need to do is go really low intensity, just jog as easy as you like for as long as you like, a few stride outs, fast run throughs. They can be very relaxed, as long as they're fast and good technique, like you're talking about. It's a great way to increase your efficiency throughout the year. You can even run base for the whole of the winter. You can just be in quite high mileage, but it won't harm your winter racing. In fact, it'll only help it, because I've been talking about this recently with Alan Cousins, who's the exercise physiologist in Boulder, and he's got a good web page. But when you're training aerobically enough at a low enough intensity, your left ventricle, which is the main pump, as you know, to the whole body, is able to expand to its biggest volume, and it's got to expand fully and then contract fully to get the stimulus to grow a stronger and thicker muscular wall. He found that he could get huge improvements, relatively speaking, in VO2 max by staying way, way below VO2 max intensities, because there's this perception that, and you see it in coaching magazines, you've got to do high intensity interval training to improve your VO2 max. Well, that's sort of true, but sort of not.
If you don't have a sound aerobic base, you can't maintain the intensity that the IIT protocols require. That's something I always try to explain to people and my clients. You can't sustain an intensity if you don't have a base, an aerobic base, which hold the intensity. That phase you were talking about, running at lower rate of not appreciated. It's not appreciated. Many people think of those long runs as junk miles, but they are not. They are not. They don't really understand the use and the benefits that they can get from them.
The very low intensity running is very forgiving, and I say it forgives an awful lot of sins. So if you go and make a mistake and train too hard up the top of the intensity pyramid, you've actually got to go out to the sides with an opposite intensity. So you spend too much time up here, you've got to then forgive your body or restore your body's overall metabolism by plenty of work down here. And you can do as much easy work as you like, sandwiching that really hard work. And if you do that, you will just keep on improving and improving and improving. My first 3 years of serious training, I would have averaged well over 100 miles a week for 3 years in a row. It was all easy. I didn't get injured, and I just enjoyed it. But my average mile rate went down from at 18 or 17 or 18, 7 minutes a mile, which is 4 minutes something for a kilometre, to 6 minutes a mile or 3:43 a kilometre. Just the average. It felt all the same to me as I was just running, easy running. But what happens, of course, is the size of the ventricle improves so much. So it's directly related to volume of work in the easier intensities, how much larger your heart capacity can get to.
About what you said about sandwich, aerobic sandwich, that's a concept that I use for people who don't have so much time for training. Let's say a person can train only 4 times a week, 5 times a week. So what is that I do? In 60 minutes of time, I do 20 minutes of slow aerobic warm-up, then 40 minutes of a little faster run, and then a cool down of 20 minutes, again in slower running race. And that's what I call aerobic sandwich. And by doing this way, I mix together 2 sessions in one. That's for people who don't have much time for training. Let's say 4 days a week, we have a lot of aerobic buffering. I call buffering. Even before and after anaerobic session, 15 to 20 minutes first, 15 to 20 minutes after, and then in the middle, I used to apply what you call sausage fartlek. That's mentioned in your previous book, in your 2009 book.
Roger Robinson, yeah. They used to do sausage sessions at Cambridge University. Yeah.
1 minute and 15 on, 45 seconds off for let's say 6 or 8 times or more, even 16 times, and then all put in between this aerobic sandwich. That's a remarkable session. That's very, very effective session.
How hard are those? You said 1 minute, 15 seconds on.
Yes.
Higher effort?
Let's say for a advanced amateur, it could be 3:45 per kilometer on, and with a recovery of 4 minutes and 10 seconds off.
So you're going from a higher intensity aerobic to a more average aerobic recovery. Okay.
Yes. 3/4 of effort, let's say.
All of these approaches work, as you know, and the body will get used to whatever you give it. So people who do a lot of the high intensity interval work will get really very good at performing high intensity interval work, but it doesn't necessarily translate into an ability to pull everything out for a race, because they've already pulled everything out to get through their interval sessions.